Hello everyone. In my previous video, I addressed reducing sound intensity in my cabin, which has made my car a lot more comfortable to drive since. However, reducing noise is just the first part of NVH, with the vibrations and harmonics left to address for a more refined driving experience. That's what I'll be covering in this video, so let's start with the major source of vibrations in my car. With the 2AR in my Spyder using the FMW swap kit, the front engine mount is made to be stiffer to handle the extra torque and allow for a better throttle response on the track. But this allows more vibrations to make their way into the chassis rather than remain isolated. Comparing visually, you can see why one mount would isolate vibrations more while the other will allow less engine movement, each effect being the trade-off of the other. There's no blame to be had here, as this mount was intended for track use. This, however, results in some of my trim rattling at certain RPMs and some shaking in the car at idle. Since I prefer long-term comfort over optimized performance here, especially since a stiff mount doesn't have many benefits on a daily, I will opt to replace the front chassis mount with a stock MR2 Spyder mount to bring an OEM feel to the car and fix these issues. But doing this will require the creation of a custom mount bracket, as the mount dimensions are different. I'll be using this picture from Matthew on the FMW Discord as a guide, as he was one of a handful of people to fit this OEM mount for the 2AR. Firstly, the O2 sensor in the FMW header will interfere with the bulk of the mount, so it will need to be relocated to the opposite side. I had a welder fit this bung, and I plugged the original one with a generic O2 plug kit. The Bosch O2 sensor is just short of being rerouted here, so I got this 1-foot extension, which gave me plenty of length to work with. I also used some of this fiberglass insulation sleeve with metal zip ties to secure and protect the harness from the hot header, since it is being routed over it. Using the picture again as reference, the metal looks to be stock steel with a thickness of perhaps 1/8 inch, but I will use 3/16, as it certainly won't hurt to strengthen the bracket. Looks like I need a bar of 1 inch width and another for the backing plate that is 3 inches wide. Home Depot had these, and there was stock left over after I was done. Onto the fabrication. I unbolt the FMW hardware to see what I'm working with. I need to create a supporting structure that will reuse the 3 holes in the transmission, then some extension arms that will connect to the center of the mount. I bolt in the OEM mount and try to center this 3-inch steel relative to the mount's edges. Once I locate the first bolt hole, I can use the hole pattern of the old transmission bracket to make the base plate. Rounding it a bit and smoothing the holes, I can bolt it into the transmission and try to fit the OEM mount again. The bottommost bolt does interfere with the mount, so I ground the head of the bolt and it cleared fine while still being removable. Now that it's sitting in place, I can start making the connecting arms. First, I drill a hole into this piece to constrain it with the bolt. Then I can cut an angle into it so it sits straight into the plate. This looks good, so I cut an identical one for the other side. Now that both sides are tacked into place, I can make the bottom arm. Also drilling a hole and rounding it, I can dial in the correct length and then tack it. I noticed I can't do the same on the other side as I'd run out of bolt length, so I kept the piece short instead of side by side with the top arm. Then the final welding can happen. Acetylene was used here, but it needed some work as the tacks interfered with the new welds and each edge needed to be done from both sides. Then I was able to grind down the protruding welds afterwards so that it sits flush where it needs to. Here are some dimensions for those that want to make their own. I would shift this hole down a few millimeters, but I was able to get the bolt in with some persuasion. A quick coat of paint to prevent rust. I mounted the bracket and prepared to bolt the OEM mount in place. The top right bolt on the mount side is extremely tedious to tighten, as you have about 5 degrees of space to rotate your wrench, so maybe a small modification to the bracket would help in the future. First startup, there is an immediate and obvious difference to me. It's difficult to show it on video, but it's a lot more comfortable. This is mostly from the seat not giving me a massage at idle, and from the interior having less noise at all RPM. As for shift feel, this was not worsened, as this is a cable setup, like the brakes on a bike handle, and is not affected by the movement of the transmission anyway. Yet it is easier to time your shifts and engage your clutch without getting whiplash, as the drivetrain movement allows some forgiveness in your timing. There is still one more thing I'd like to try. That might seem counterintuitive, but maybe the logic works here. So this is the engine and the chassis. The front and rear mounts take care of all drivetrain movement, especially keeping it in place when accelerating or decelerating. The stiffer the mounts, the less movement and better throttle response, but worse driver comfort. Although both mounts can handle the same load, since the rear mount is a lot further away from the driver, unlike the firewall mount, which is as close as it can be, stiffening the rear mount should bring back some responsiveness without allowing as many vibrations to transmit into the cabin, as they have to travel farther back to reach me through the cross member and side members. This is just my headcanon though, and I'm willing to try it out and learn to see if I can optimize here, but the slightly dampened throttle response is not a major complaint for me. I found these rear mount inserts on Thingiverse and had them printed in TPU at 25% infill. They are very flexible and should survive in the rear mount, as they are not relatively close to a major heat source. Removing the mount to insert them, some grinding was needed on the edges of the inserts to fit them in. Driving with these, I do notice some slight resonance, being excited at about 1100 RPM, but not much above that. If I had to put a 10 for comfort for the OEM mount and maybe a 3 for the previous mount, these would sit around a 6. I think the issue is this contact patch here, which transmits vibrations directly from the transmission to the chassis, bypassing the rubber portion. So I removed the edges here, but kept the insert portion, and now it does drive a lot better, closer to a 9. But the performance difference is small enough that I could take it or leave it. I'm just too lazy to unbolt the mount again. Now that that is taken care of, I can move on to the last portion of NVH, harmonics. Since installing my MagnaFlow muffler a few years ago, I noticed some drone occurring in a certain RPM band, about 3 to 3,500 RPM. At these RPMs, the entire exhaust system resonates and the effect is very noticeable inside the cabin, whether the soft top is up or down. Since I like driving in this range, it does tend to get very annoying and needs to be addressed. The engine mount did reduce the intensity of it slightly, but this effect was there before the mount and mount insert, so it does need to be taken care of at the source. To eliminate the drone of my exhaust system, I could replace my current muffler with a higher quality one, but another route is to create a Helmholtz resonator that would directly eliminate those drone frequencies. Cost and effort wise, I decided to go this route. To create this resonator, I first need to figure out what frequency the drone is occurring at. Using the Spectrum app while driving, I can see the most prominent frequencies are at about 100 to 110 Hz. This varies slightly when the exhaust is cold, but the resonator targets a range of frequencies around the peak, so it should address the majority of the drone at different temperatures. With this information, I am using Alex Wilhelm's tool from his website that allows you to calculate the dimensions of both the chamber and the neck of the resonator. The dimensions are varied until the diameters match a commonly manufactured tube size. The resonator should work better if the body diameter is about 4 times greater than the neck diameter, or that's what I've heard at least. These are the dimensions I chose, with the body pipe being about 6 inches across, bought from Metals R Us. The neck was from a scrap piece at an exhaust shop. I got some sheet metal to form the end plates, and this was welded together to form the resonator. Finding a good location to place this resonator might be tricky, as it has to tee off the exhaust path without cutting away too much from the neck. This area seems fine, as did the area down here. The exact placement isn't critical. Startup sounds fine, and driving under light load, I notice about 50% less of a drone than before. I recorded these clips to compare, but I don't believe my phone picks it up well. No, this wasn't a magic fix that made the exhaust sound like a well-tuned OEM system, but it did drastically reduce the effect from before, and I no longer had the headache from hanging around at about 3,000 RPM on the highway. Perhaps a slightly better effect could be achieved if the resonator was placed in the path before the muffler, but the improvement is good enough for me to not touch this topic again. At this point, I believe I've done all that I can practically do to improve driving comfort without much compromise. My Spyder is now at a point where I can daily it anywhere with comfort while still enjoying driving the car when I want to. It's a good balance while still feeling refined. And now I can focus on other things. Thanks for watching.